In the beginning, there was nothing, darkness. But vague particles merged, heated up, and out of nothing, something was born. Early humans created myths that the universe was born from chaotic matter. The ideological myths of many peoples around the world say that the universe was created out of the chaos that reigned before it, a mixture of darkness, light, waters, mud, and mists. In a Baltic saga about the great serpent and the snake, it is said that in the beginning there was a fog, gray, thick as sour cream. Day was no different from night, black from white, warm from cold. Then, little by little, the haze began to shrink, getting even thicker and shrinking into an egg, so that our earth is just a grain of sand compared to it. And in the egg was the life of the great serpent and the great snake. The story goes that the great serpent lived in the sky and the snake lived on earth, and they fell in love with each other. But their love destroyed them both. Air, water, and fire were joined together. The great reptiles felt their bodies burst into pieces and scatter in all directions. From the eyes of the great serpent came the sun and the moon, from the golden crown the stars, from the diamonds the Milky Way, from the skin the rainbow, from the smell the wind and clouds, from the voice thunder, from the sweat rain, from the blood the embers of dawn and sunset. The body of the great snake became the earth and gave the earth mountains, rocks, grass, flowers, trees, lakes, seas, rivers, and animals hatched from the egg. Since ancient times, people have understood the beginning of everything and have attributed mythologized stories to it. In many Indo-European myths, the beginning of everything is associated with the egg. These versions are common to all the Baltic people. The Big Bang marks the beginning of the universe, the beginning of everything. It all happened about 14 billion years ago. The huge fireball created by the Big Bang is slowly cooling. This created tiny particles. Everything in the universe is made up of these particles, now called materials. The particles dispersed and the universe began to expand. Over time, thick clouds of hydrogen and helium gas have formed. The universe was so dense that light couldn't travel very far, so the universe was very dark. After a few thousand years, the temperature dropped to a few thousand degrees. Gradually, the haze dissipated. Light could travel further, and the universe became as transparent as it is today. The first galaxies began to form. Galaxies are huge star systems. They can vary in size and shape. The most common shapes are spiral galaxy, elliptical galaxy, and irregular galaxy. The universe today is made up of countless stars, planets, and huge clouds of dust and gas, separated by vast expanses of empty space. Even today, there are parts of the universe in the process of being formed. The universe is so big it is hard to imagine. The distances are giant and measured in light years. 1 light year is equal to the distance light travels in a year. The speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second. After the Big Bang, around 9 billion years later, the planets of our solar system formed at the edge of the galaxy later known as the Milky Way. If we look up at the sky on a dark, clear night, we will see many stars and other lights. From wherever we look, we will seem to be at the center of the celestial sphere. We belong to the spiral galaxy of the Milky Way. The Milky Way is made up of stars, star clusters, gas and dust nebulae, and interstellar material. Compared to other galaxies, the Milky Way is quite large, stretching almost 100,000 light years. Earth and parts of the solar system are about 32,000 light years away from the center of the galaxy. On a dark night, we can count about 5,000 stars with the naked eye. In late summer and autumn, due to the Earth's position in orbit, we can see the density of the Milky Way. We can see the trail of millions of stars. The stars appear to be so close together that they merge into one long star cloud. Our ancestors gave it the name of the bird trail because it stretches across the sky in the same direction that birds fly in the autumn to their warmer climes. The ancient Greeks named it the Milky Way because they thought it looked like spilt milk. Lithuanian folklore also contains myths about the Milky Way, but their meaning is linked to birds that drink the heavenly milk from the stars of the bird trail in preparation for a long journey. Humans have been aware of their connection to the universe since ancient times. Since the beginning of time, humans have been observing the sun, moon, stars, and other celestial bodies. In the early Paleolithic, our ancestors grouped stars into constellations, gave them names, and created myths about them. In ancient times, stars were associated with the working seasons of primitive people, especially hunting and gathering plant food, and later with farming and animal husbandry. All the stars of varying brilliance that can be seen with the naked eye in the sky are galactic stars, our neighbors within a few light years or tens of light years of the sun. The brightest stars have been divided into shapes called constellations since ancient times. Each constellation is named after a beast, bird, or object. The main constellations, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, Pegasus, Cassiopeia, Perseus, Andromeda, Leo, Eagle, Apex, etc. Lithuanian constellation names, Taurus, Capricorn, Big Dog, Little Dog, Lynx, Hare, Aries, Swan, etc. Constellations are very handy for pointing in one direction or another in the sky. In the vastness of the bird trail, and sometimes beyond, stars can be seen gathered in small groups, called star clusters. One of the better-known star clusters is the Pleiades found in Taurus constellation. It is called by many different names in different parts of Lithuania. The constellation is called Cetus, or Pleiades, a characteristic of Baltic. It was very important to our ancestors. The ancients used the position of Pleiades in the sky to tell the time of the autumn night. In the evening, Pleiades rises to the top of the sky, and in the morning it sets down. Following the Pleiades, farmers would start some of their work. It is said that the Pleiades was left in the sky by the gods so that people could count time from its position. The 7 stars are mentioned in the Pleiades. There are various myths about the origin of the Pleiades. One of them is that it represents 7 brothers who were persecuted by pagans. They had risen to the sky and became stars. In Baltic tales and songs, Pleiades is often personified and was considered a protector or even a relative of the people, often called a brother. Below the Pleiades is the Haycutter's Orion constellation. It is one of the most beautiful ornaments in the winter sky. Orion's constellation is made up of 7 stars, the 3 Haycutters and the 3 or 4 rake women, also sometimes known as the 3 sisters. This beautiful constellation starts to appear in the mornings in August before sunrise. After that, it appears earlier and earlier. By December, it is already rising in the evening. The visibility of the constellation of the Haycutters used to tell people about the time of night in winter and the length of the day. People also used to predict what kind of year it would be and the future harvest. The later name of Orion was Christianized and called the 3 Kings Star. But the brightest star in the sky vault, Sirius, also known as the 3 Kings Star, is not in the constellation Orion, but in the constellation of the Canis Major. The dark nebula of the Horse's Head is visible in the constellation Orion. A nebula is a collection of interstellar gas and dust in a starry sky, visible as bright or dark spots. The constellation of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor is known as the Major and Minor drill wheels. The constellation's name was coined by primitive hunters. This constellation, and in particular the fixed North Star in Ursa Minor, was the most important landmark for hunters to determine direction and time. In ancient times, Lithuanians called these constellations Dipper. This name is not only common in the Baltic nation, but is also used in parts of Asia. It is an archaic name. An archaic myth says that there was a drought, and a girl went out at night with a dipper to bring water to her sick mother. 7 large diamonds appeared in the dipper, and clear water poured out of them. The diamonds went up into the sky and became a constellation, and now people call that constellation Dipper. The name drill wheels was coined during the period of hoe agriculture, when the wheel was invented around 5,000 years ago. Ursa Major is a group of 7 bright stars, the name wheels and small wheels found in Latvia. Ursa Minor are similar to the Ursa Major, but twice as small. At the end of the drill of the Ursa Minor is the North Star. It's almost at the North Pole of the sky, and all the stars in the northern hemisphere spin around it. The North Star, Polaris, was one of the most important stars for ancient sailors. In some Baltic countries, it is also known as a sky nail. The North Star was also called the Kyrenian Lagoon Star, the Star of the Sailors, or the Star of the Sea, because it was used by fishermen and sailors to find their way around. This is the star that showed the way because it never moved. It was like an anchor in the sky. All the people of Europe and Asia regarded it as the center of the sky. In the Baltics, the vault of the sky at the North Star was thought to rest on an axis and rotate around it. This axis was called the Pillar of the World, Axis Mundi, which is often referred to in legends, incantations, ceremonies, and depicted in folk art. In the past, the Baltic people imagined the earth as flat, surrounded by a giant stone dome called the sky. Stars were holes in the sky through which light shone from above the dome. The vault was thought to have been suspended by nail or supported by poles. The top of the pole or nail was the North Star, so it is always standing still while all the other stars revolve around it. The zodiac is the Greek word for the circle of beasts. It is a band of the celestial sphere, about 16 degrees of latitude meters wide, along the ecliptic, through which the sun, the moon, and the planets travel. There are 12 constellations in the zodiacal belt: Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Capricorn. The sun travels around this constellation circle in a year. The zodiac constellations were used by early hunters to determine the most important hunting seasons. It was like the oldest star calendar. Lithuanians already had a cult of celestial lights in the Stone Age. Lithuanians had their own astronomers and calendar. King Sigismund Augustus in 1551 had a wizard who made fortune from the stars. Lithuanians had fortune tellers and priests called stargazers. They watched the stars and predicted the future based on them. An ancient calendar stone circle with the symbol of the sun is created in the park of the Lithuanian Museum of Ethnocosmology. It speaks about time, the universe, people, and the journey of the mother sun through the vault of the sky. For Lithuanians, a stone is a symbol of eternity. From Parnidis Dune, you can see the sun rising out of the water and setting into the water. Astronomically, it is the ideal place for a sundial in Lithuania, which is placed on the top of the Parnidis Dune. The Parnidis Dune raises obelisk to a height of 53 meters, the highest point in the Kyrenian Spit. Climbing to the top of the dune, the sundial becomes a cosmic link between heaven and earth. The top of the obelisk is cut to match the direction of the North Star. Importantly, the sundial shows the actual local time. The sun, which rides in a chariot and sails in a boat, was known to most Indo-European people. It was a popular tradition in Lithuania and Latvia. On Midsummer's Night, people were boating in rivers and lakes. The boats were decorated with flowers and wreaths. Fires were lit in them. The sun was held in high esteem, so it has as many as 4 prominent days of the year. These are solstice, the shortest day, dew, the longest day, and the spring and autumn equinoxes. Prussian Lithuanians depicted horses with symbols of the sun and stars on the pots or urns placed in the grave. White horses were holy in folklore and belonged to the goddess Sun. The roofs of the houses are decorated with a zoomorphic motive and a solar and cosmic symbolism. The heads of the horses represent the mythical sun traveling in a chariot across the firmament. The symbolism of the sun is very common in the decoration of ethnographic objects. Segmented and octagonal stars, the suns on the tops of crosses, signify the annual path of the sun and the main festivals of the year that mark it. The half moon in the decoration of the crosses symbolizes not the moon, but the boat of the sun. In the Baltics, a solar eclipse was interpreted as the sun being taken by dark spirits or dragons. In order to scare off the supernatural creatures that eat the sun, Lithuanians, like most people of the world, would make noise by smashing metal dishes against each other, shooting into the sky, shouting, and performing magic incantations. This was a way of warding off the monsters that were eating the sun. The moon was the light of the night, dispelling the darkness that ancient people found so terrifying. The moon became interesting to Baltic tribes in the Stone Age. Lithuanians considered and called the moon a god. The alignment of the moon with the deer is one of the oldest. The horns of the deer symbolize the new moon. The deer embodied the universe, the sky, the moon. It was surrounded by the sacred and had a very important role in hunting ceremonies. The deer could protect people from the tide, which connects it to the moon, which is the source of the tides. In Lithuanian fairy tales, the moon turns into a horse, knows how to speak, and gives wise advice to the hero, helping him to perform extraordinary supernatural feats. During the agricultural and animal husbandry period, the moon is compared to a shepherd herding sheep, the stars. The representation of the moon by a shepherd is associated with the world of the dead. The shepherd moon was the guardian of the spirits, and the sheep, stars, were the spirits of the dead. The phases of the moon were believed to influence the cultivation of the land and other farm work. People believed that the new and full moon influenced a person's character and appearance. They used to say to a restless person, "Did the moon hatch you?" Folk medicine used to rely on the phases of the moon. Herbs were only gathered during the new moon or full moon, as they believed that herbs were best at that time. Lithuanian mythical folklore mentions 7 daughters of the sun, planets, mainly Dawn Star or Morning Star and Evening Star. These stars represent the planet Venus. Both of them served the sun. Dawn made fire, carried water, and cooked soup. Evening laid the bed for the sun. Mythological folklore mentions Indrea, the daughter of the sun. Indrea is associated with the planet Jupiter. She was a water fairy. Indrea is described as a caring protector of people, bringing all kinds of goodies from the sun. In mythological tales, there are 3 other daughters of the sun: Bavora, Mercury, Ringlet, Mars, and Celia, Saturn. Mercury orbits the sun in an elliptical path, causing its distance from the sun to vary from 46 to 70 million km. Mercury can be seen with the naked eye, but it is harder to observe than the other 4 planets, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, known since ancient times. Mercury orbits closest to the sun, with an average distance of 58 million kilometers, completing its orbit in 88 days. Mercury is not only the smallest planet in the solar system, but also continuously shrinking. Astronomers believe the planet is shrinking because its iron core is cooling and contracting. Mercury has no moons. The only other planet in the solar system without moons is Venus. Venus, Earth's sister, Earth's closest neighbor, Venus, has an average distance from the Sun of 108 million km. Of all the planets, Venus's orbit is the most circular, so its distance from the Sun varies very little. A year on Venus lasts 225 Earth days. To an observer on Earth, Venus never moves more than 48 degrees away from the Sun in the sky, making it visible either in the evening, evening star, or in the morning, morning star. Venus is the only planet in the solar system that rotates clockwise. Venus is named after the Roman goddess of beauty and love. It is the only planet with a female name. Venus has the most volcanoes of any planet in the solar system. Earth has about 1,500 active volcanoes, whereas Venus has around 1,600, with some still undiscovered. Earth is the only planet in the solar system known to have life and human civilization. Earth orbits the Sun in an almost circular orbit, with an average distance of 149,597,870 kilometers. The Sun, along with Earth, orbits the center of the galaxy, located in the direction of the Sagittarius constellation, about 28,000 light-years away. All planets except Earth are named after Greek or Roman gods. Earth is the 3rd planet from the Sun and the 5th largest in the solar system. A day on Earth is 24 hours long, but technically, Earth completes one rotation on its axis in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds. Mars orbits the Sun at an average distance 1.524 times greater than Earth's, or about 223 million kilometers. Mars' orbit is noticeably elliptical, ranging from 206 million km at perihelion to 249 million km at aphelion. Despite its significant orbital speed of 24.11 kilometers on average, Mars completes an orbit in 687 Earth days or 1.88 Earth years, 22.5 months. Mars is twice the size of Earth's moon, but Earth is twice the size of Mars. Mars has 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun, located between Mars and Saturn. The most famous moons of Jupiter are Callisto, Europa, Io, and Ganymede, discovered by Galileo Galilei. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun, with distances ranging from 1.35 billion km to 1.51 billion km. Saturn orbits the Sun in 29.5 years and is the second largest planet in the solar system, with a diameter 10 times larger than Earth's and a mass 95 times greater. Saturn is the second largest in the solar system. It's surrounded by beautiful rings. The farthest planet from Earth discovered by the unaided human eye, Saturn has been known since ancient times. The planet is named for the Roman god of agriculture and wealth, who was also the father of Jupiter. Uranus is the 7th planet from the Sun, with distances ranging from 2.7 billion km. Uranus orbits the Sun in 84 years and is the 3rd largest planet in the solar system, nearly the same size as Neptune. Uranus is surrounded by 10 thin rings, located 40,000–50,000 km from its center. Uranus has a unique feature. Its axis of rotation is almost horizontal to its orbital plane, making it appear to roll along its orbit. Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system, even colder than Neptune, with temperatures ranging from -201 degrees Celsius to -218 degrees Celsius. It was the first planet to be discovered through a telescope. Neptune is the 8th planet from the Sun, almost equal in size to Uranus, but with a higher average density and 16 times the mass of Earth. Neptune was discovered in 1846 by the German astronomer Johann Galle. Meteors are large and small rocks, even dust, that enter the atmosphere from outer space. Lithuanians have always called them flying kites, fire snakes, or falling stars. In mythological tales, a fire serpent, a kite, flies through the skies to its estate after winning a girl as a wife. The kite, appearing as a fiery serpent, helps an impoverished man out of his misery. Comets have attracted people's attention since ancient times. A comet is a tailed star, a low-mass, nebulous cloud-like cosmic body of water, ice, and dust that travels in the solar system. The comet was called the fire star, the tailed star, the broom star, or simply the broom, the scourge or the scourge of the gods, and the sword by Baltic folk. The appearance of the comet was considered by the people to be a sign from the gods that they were sending a great disaster in retribution for sin, hunger, plague, war, famine, drought, torrential rains, misery, and poverty for the whole land. The northern lights are the glow of the atmosphere. It happens when storms on the sun's surface cause gaseous material to be ejected into space. When these bursts reach Earth, the gaseous material interacts with gases in the Earth's atmosphere and with the Earth's magnetic field. The red aurora borealis in western Lithuania is called gases. The appearance of the aurora was associated with the approach of a major bloodbath in a future war or plague epidemic. The northern lights were called the daughter of the north by Latvians, who sail in a boat. She is a beautiful maiden ruler of the winds of the sea, dressed in rainbow-colored clothes. Becoming an astronaut is every little kid's dream. But when children grow up, sometimes they don't realize what a really serious and difficult job it is. So who are the cosmonauts? A cosmonaut is a person who controls a spacecraft and conducts tests under the conditions of spaceflight. Before flying into space, cosmonauts must have special theoretical, medical, technical, and physical training. While preparing and practicing for the flight, cosmonauts deepen their knowledge of physics, mathematics, engineering, and are trained physically and psychologically, and are prepared for difficult situations. Cosmonauts are trained to operate spaceships, work in spacesuits simulating a flight from start to finish. Cosmonauts conduct various research and experiments, study the effects of microgravity on biological organisms, and observe physical phenomena that may be useful on Earth and in future space missions. We all hear the word satellite when we talk about space, and probably always think about the Moon, Earth's satellite. The Earth's satellite orbits in a geocentric elliptical orbit. The maximum flight altitude can reach several 100,000 kilometers. The time to orbit the Earth depends on the average flight altitude and can be from 89 minutes to several days. The artificial satellite of the Earth orbits from inertia. Artificial Earth satellites study the Earth's atmosphere, ionosphere, magnetosphere, measure the coordinates of points on the Earth, the space medium in the Earth's environment. Artificial satellites are also used for communication and meteorological forecasting. The first artificial Earth satellites were launched by the SSRS and the United States of America. In 2018, 88 countries launched artificial Earth satellites. We often hear the word Mars rover when talking about Mars or watch movies about this planet. Rovers are special human-made robots designed for missions on Mars, controlled from the ground with special equipment. The work of these robots on Mars includes searching for life, capturing surface images, studying the topography of Mars, studying the environment, collecting and analyzing geological samples. Transporting rovers to Mars is a long and difficult journey for scientists. Plans and preparations are created. The finished manufactured and tested robot is loaded into a rocket that is used for launch. The journey through interplanetary space, the space between the planets in the solar system, lasts about 6 to 9 months. After landing, the Mars rover will disintegrate into its full form and begin scientific research on the surface of the red planet. For centuries, the universe has been portrayed as a not very large closed machine that works with great precision and harmony. We wanted to be at the center of the universe and believed in it deeply for centuries, until we realized that our place in the universe is not special. We are just a tiny planet next to an ordinary star in one of the many galaxies, orbiting through a vast expanse of space, born billions of years ago. We can only speculate whether our universe is finite and unique, or whether there are a vast number of other universes that may not look like ours. Perhaps there are particles and laws of physics in other universes that are unknown to us. For thousands of years, humans have been exploring their planet, trying to understand its neighbors. But now, more and more, we are finding suspected new worlds, exoplanets that orbit stars other than the Sun. Science is advancing rapidly, with better and more efficient methods of research. Increasingly, astronomers may have to go through lists of Greek and Roman gods to find suitable names for the new members of the universe.